When you think of Tasmania, what comes to mind? You're probably picturing, this pristine wilderness, maybe the cleanest air in the world. But here's the thing. Underneath that beautiful surface, there's a huge economic puzzle. It's a place where the normal rules of real estate just seem to be completely broken. Let's get into it.
So on the one hand, you have this just breathtaking snow-capped mountains, World Heritage Wilderness. It's the kind of view people fly across the planet to see. And then, on the other hand, you have this, a block of land right there in that paradise, for sale for less than $40,000. And no, that is not a typo.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? How on earth is a piece of this incredible island cheaper than a second-hand car? It doesn't make any sense. So what's the catch?
All right, to get our heads around this, we need to realize these aren't just one-off weird listings. No, this is a whole pattern, especially if you look at the island's Wild West coast.
I mean, look at these. These are real prices from real listings. Under 40 grand in Zeehan, 38,000 in Queenstown. And then, get this, Waratah offers over $15,000. For most of us, that's just an unbelievable price for land. It's a genuine what is happening here moment. So why isn't everyone buying it up?
Well, the first part of the answer is literally buried in the past. To understand the price, you really have to understand the story of a town like Queenstown.
This quote from back in 2004 just paints such a brutal picture. For 100 years, copper mining and smelting just poisoned the earth. The fumes created so much acid rain that it killed everything, leaving behind these bare, orange hills that the locals actually call a moonscape. The environmental cost was just staggering.
And you can see the human cost right here in the numbers. Just look at that population collapse, from over 10,000 people in the district at its peak, all the way down to just 1,800 today. It's a classic story, really. When the environment dies, the economy is next, and then the people leave.
So yeah, those cheap prices, they're not some big mystery. They're a direct result of some very real, very serious problems. I mean, think about it. Nearly constant cloud cover, polluted rivers, soil so acidic you can't even grow grass on the football field. Then you add in an economic collapse when the mine closed and the fact that you're super isolated, and that price tag starts to make a lot more sense.
Okay, so that explains the moonscape. But what about all those other cheap blocks of land? The ones in beautiful, pristine spots? Well, that's where the old historical explanation kind of falls apart, and a much more modern, much more frustrating story begins.
This, right here, is the real reason so few people are buying up paradise. The biggest obstacle you'll face today isn't a polluted river. It's a mountain of paperwork, a maze of regulations, and a ton of hidden costs. It's what we're calling the bureaucratic fortress.
Let's go back to that block in Waratah for just $15,000. It sounds like a dream, right? A cheap way to get on the property ladder, build a little cabin in the wilderness. But the real estate listing itself basically tells you it's a nightmare.
The listing spells it all out. First, you have to establish legal access. The land doesn't even touch a road, so good luck negotiating with all your neighbors. Then, you have to provide your own services: water, sewer, stormwater. We're talking tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars right there. Oh, and it's in the bush, so you need a super expensive bushfire report and have to build to these costly specific standards. That $15,000 bargain just turned into a $250,000 headache.
And get this, even if you figure all that out, the system can still stop you. There's this story of a guy in Zeehan who has this beautiful property right next to some bike tracks. It's not really worth building a whole house, so he builds a tiny house. A smart, simple solution. But here's the kicker. The council tells him it can only be used as a shelter. He's not legally allowed to live in it. So you can own the land, you can build the building, but the rules say you can't actually call it home. It's just crazy.
And this whole conflict, this battle between what makes sense for a person and what the system will allow, it's not new. To really understand why these rules are so rigid, you have to go all the way back to how Tasmania was founded.
See, Tasmania didn't start like a regular community. It began as what's called a command economy. It was basically a military-run prison. The state had absolute power over everything and everyone: who worked where, who owned what, how every single inch of land was used. And that top-down authoritarian mindset, you can still feel its echo in the bureaucratic fortress today.
And you can see this pattern of control play out again and again over the last 2 centuries.
In the 1830s, the state forcibly removed the indigenous Palawa people. In 1999, the local community welcomed refugees from Kosovo with open arms, but the federal government stepped in and forcibly removed them. And today, local councils are blocking common-sense housing solutions like tiny homes. In every single case, the system's rigid rules just steamrolled the needs and the will of the actual community.
So all of this brings us to the core tension of modern Tasmania, a place that's achieved some truly incredible things, but at the same time seems to have left its own people behind.
I mean, just look at this. Tasmania has already hit 100% renewable energy, and they have a goal to double that by 2040. It's a world leader in huge, state-run engineering projects. They can tame wild rivers and harness the wind. It's incredible stuff.
This slide just sums up the whole paradox perfectly. On one side, you've got these amazing achievements, all that renewable energy, the cleanest air, this cultural explosion from the Mona Museum. But on the other side, you have these deep social problems, that bureaucratic fortress we've been talking about, young people leaving in droves, and a state that's totally cash-strapped when it comes to helping its most vulnerable citizens. It's a state that has totally mastered its physical world, but is really struggling to manage its social one. And so that leaves us with this final question. An island that can build massive dams, put up giant wind turbines, and literally reshape its own landscape, has proven it can pull off world-class ambitious projects. The only question now is whether it can take that same ingenuity and re-engineer the rules, not for the landscape, but for its own people.